Hello. In a previous presentation to a number of people, I gave a demo of using an MCP server that was GitHub's MCP server, getting all the tools. So in this case, I'm with an authorization header with my PAT token. I was using the MCP server that was GitHub's MCP server. I was getting all of its tools, and I was creating an agent with those tools. So people can watch one of my previous videos regarding that. What I wanted to show in this video was what does that communication actually look like? Like, what is it calling? Who's calling what when? And what does that payload look like? I had a few questions about how this is actually working behind the scenes, and I said, yeah, I can give a demo of that. So what I'm going to do here is I was previously running this, so I'm just going to run this again, make sure so I have a folder here, which I've loaded up here in Visual Studio. You'll see files here. I'm going to record what is the request to the LLM, what did I get back from the LLM, and what are the subsequent requests and responses. So I'm going to be outputting files, JSON files, because that's what you get back and forth with the LLM. As you're talking to it. So I'm going to run this demo. So again, I've got an MCP server here that has then therefore a client, and I have 40 tools, and I'm saying create me an agent with those 40 tools. There's this concept of this agent thread. This kind of keeps a history of all like my conversation to date, because normally when you're talking to a chat, like ChatGPT or whatever, as long as you haven't started up a new chat, I want to continue, referring back to previous things that I said. And I'm doing this for a reason too, because I just want to show how heavy using tools can be. So I'm just going to continue to run this. Again, so I've created the agent. I'm just saying, please give me some info. There's my little cursor. I'm ready for some reading a prompt, and I'm going to say, what is the capital of Saskatchewan? Okay. So as expected, I've got back my console. What I typed in console was the capital of Saskatchewan. It's now a chat message. I'm going to now ask the agent, this Microsoft Agent Framework, please send this message. What is the capital of Saskatchewan? Here's a thread of my previous conversations. Right now, there's nothing there. And I make the call. And then what I'm doing here is this custom HTTP client handler. I'm recording right before sending it. What is that request URI? And so you see here, I'm calling into this cognitiveservices.azure.com. That's that AI Foundry endpoint that you get. I'm going to, I'm just saying that I'm about to record the request. In this case, I'm getting the request, and I'm going to show this. You can tell right away, it looks like it's going to be pretty big. That's pretty enormous, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. So you see how big that is. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to log it to a file. So that's what this does. Is it just I can step into it if you really want to see it. Deserialize, grab some information, put it into JSON format, write it to a file. I have a certain naming convention here, and I'll let that run. And so what do I have on the other side? So let's take a look. So if I go over here, so I got a request. The request is I have a system prompt. Again, there's this messages section. So this is regardless of like the LM itself talks this way. So the messages, you have a role, it's a system prompt. There's my prompt. Got a user input. What is the capital of Saskatchewan? Great. Which model do I want to use? And what are the tools? And remember I can't remember what I said, 50 tools? I can't remember how many tools there are. There's a lot of tools in the one MCP server. And so if I collapse this from lines 13 to 1,774, that's an enormous payload. Like up to this point in time, I had 12 lines, I know, formatted as a JSON document. But regardless, a little tiny bit of input by the user, what is capital Saskatchewan with the system prompt? another 1,761 lines of tools. And if we take a look at it, there's a description, so it's like, what is that tool name? What is the description? What are the required elements of fields to call? And you're going to see this shortly. But if you remember, I asked for the capital Saskatchewan. None of those tools has anything to do with capital Saskatchewan, but it's going to be along for the ride. Okay, so that was my request. My response then is it gives some information back, and including a stop reason. So it's like, okay, the LM says, yeah, I answered the question. I'm stopped. And you're going to see that here, more information about that shortly with the GitHub call. And and there was the capital of Saskatchewan is Regina. This is the information that the Microsoft Agent Framework will then parse out so it can be more easily displayed. And as you can tell here, the total tokens that this took, there won't be any reason tokens because I'm not using GPT-5, but if I was, there'd be even more tokens. There'd be some tokens right here. But the total tokens is 5,257. Off of a question of what is the capital of Saskatchewan. Why? Because there's a bunch of tools. Okay, I know I'm harking this to death, but that's just super important to understand. Okay, so then going back to my demo, let's keep it going. So it's now I'll say, who am I in GitHub? Okay, so again, as we know from previous, the LM can't answer this question. So unlike this question, what is the capital of Saskatchewan? This is like trained data. Didn't need a tool to answer that. We gave it a bunch of tools, but it didn't have to use any of those tools. This question, who am I in GitHub, doesn't know how to answer that. So what's going to happen is, again, it's going to make a request, and I'm just going to let this request happen. Okay, so the request came, I got a response, I'm recording it. Okay, so so let me just take a look at that now. So now it's my next request. So here's my next request. And again, because it has a thread of information, all of my other previous requests are here, right? So there's the system prompt, great. What is the capital of Saskatchewan? The assistant came back, like the LM said, they answered, the capital of Saskatchewan is Regina. I'm still learning the specs. I don't necessarily know what that means, but regardless, there wasn't an agent probably that used it, I guess. Or maybe that's my name. Actually, I'm not. Oh, that's probably because an agent can call another agent. Anyways, regardless, I won't get into that because I'm still learning it. So anyways, that was the first. And now who am I in GitHub is another message on the stack. And okay, great. So now the LM has to consider all of this plus all of the tools. So if the LM's trying to answer this question, now it'll do whatever vector searching and algorithmic searching of all these other descriptions, because maybe one of these descriptions helps to answer this question. And again, we pass all the tools again. So there's another, from line 22 to 1783 are a whole bunch of tools that are included there, including the one that it's going to call, which is this get the details of authenticated GitHub user. So this is the LM will know that I match up best to answer this question with this tool that has this description. And now the response comes back and it says, okay, so the finished reason tool calls, like I want you, Agent Framework, to do a tool call for me. Like the LM can't make a tool call itself. It's relying on whatever is that framework, in this case, Microsoft Agent Framework, to take my result. I'm instructing you to call this function. Please make this tool call that is this function called getMe. There's no parameters, so just call it by itself. It has an ID here as well. Match that up on all the tools that you understand, and please do that call. And then there's the rest of this. And so this response, the total request response cycle here was 5,284 tokens, but we're not done because there's no answer here. It's just saying, the LM is just saying and recognize that the function that it needs, the tool that it needs called is the getMe. Okay, so let's continue, because again, we don't have a response yet. Okay, so it's sitting here, like you see, I don't have a little prompt because I'm still in the middle of execution. So let's go back to this, and there. Now the agent framework has made now the call to the GitHub client, and now I'm going to make another call to the agent or to the LLM. So I'm just going to record this. Okay, and there's my answer. So finally, who am I in GitHub? I made one call, I recorded it. I made it a second call, recorded it, excuse me. And here's my actual response that the agent framework says to spit out. Now let's take a look at the actual files that were sent. So now I got another call. Again, system prompt, my first question, my first answer, my second question. The answer is call to get me. And then now the tool gave this results, which was, if we take a look here, this is the GitHub call. It's hard to see. This is a JSON response here, so it's like, here's my avatar, and this is the structured output that GitHub is giving. Like the API is giving a result that is in JSON format, and so I'm going to give that. I'm saying like the tool now, as a result of calling the get me, here's the response, and that's part of my request back to the LM. And here's all the tools again. So line 40, 1801. So you see here, every single request is going to have all the tools that I have. And if I included a thread and I didn't do anything about that thread, you can compress this with the agent framework for a later video. But here's my whole history of what I said, what both I said as a user and what the calls back it gave. So like it made a call to this get me, got this JSON result, okay? And then I finally recorded the response, and the LLM said, okay, I answered, finish, reason, stop. Here's the message to display on the screen. Yes, I used the GPT-4 model. It wasn't violent, no jailbreaks and whatnot. I believe this might be an AI Foundry thing. Looking still into that when these things get flipped on. And then 5,513 tokens. So that the first request, again, just to highlight this one more time. First request, what is capital Saskatchewan? 5,257 tokens. Second request, which was the GitHub question. 2 request responses, 5,284 tokens plus 5,500. So over 10,000, over 11,000 tokens to ask the question, who am I in GitHub? Why? Because I've loaded the agent full of whatever it was, 50 tools. So anyways, so that's how the request response works. Hopefully that makes sense. And if you have any questions, just let me know.